And that was very interesting. We went to our tutorials, or supervisions as they're called in Cambridge, and I think, as I mentioned, I had I've forgotten her name now. What was it?
What was
it? I mentioned it on the Italian. Well, never mind. We had quite a well-known lecturer for the Italian, who was used to take us for a lecture starting at 9 o'clock for 2 hours once a week. And there was Peter and Townsend and I were the only two in the university doing the Renaissance paper, which is a little bit surprising because it's a very attractive subject. And, Reynolds, her name was Dr. Somebody Reynolds, Joyce Reynolds, was it? I forgot. But she is a great Dante specialist, and has written the biography of Dorothy L. Sayers, whom she knew.
Oh, right. Very good.
And possibly had supervised or helped with her Italian. And Peter and I used to go to a young, either possibly as a PhD student or a newly qualified junior Don at his house to do our Latin American paper one evening a week for a couple of hours. And as mentioned in the Italian bit, I approached Bedfordshire to see if they would give us a grant towards going to University of Perugia, which no doubt Dr. Reynolds told us about. And we put in, and we did that at the end of the second year in the summer. So increasingly during the third year, we all became, there was a general air of jadedness about our contemporaries, as we'd all, we'd done the university thing, and we're getting impatient to move on and get to the real life and get some money in our pockets and
yes,
and
the girls.
And also, quite a bit of my time was taken up with becoming involved with Madge Frances Starmer, whom I used to see quite a lot at, going for coffee after lectures and spending time together and the evenings together. And that, in a way, detracted from the boys' life at college, because they're being out 2 evenings a week, maybe. And then of course, was the going to see films, and it was interesting. Shane, most people have seen Shane, the story of the drifter cowboy who got on obscure paths, who was the good cowboy, seeing off the bad cowboy who was terrorizing people, the settlers. And all the dons from the Dr. MacDonald and one other two dons were there, sitting in the cinema, all terribly excited, had come to see this Western, which was somewhat a little unusual. And I asked her about it at subsequent supervision, and she said, Oh, the punctilio of the duel. That was absolutely marvellous. They'd obviously heard about the exchange of insults between the goodie and the baddie. Otherwise, she didn't seem to know what the film was about, but
Well, it was a nice thing to do. Yeah, yes, probably. Yes, yes, that's probably that's it. Yeah. You don't want it all day. No, and you wouldn't what you want. Another of anybody whether if you can't do it. Yes, but it's quite nice if you can't do it.
So in a funny sort of way, our time sort of fizzled out a bit at Cambridge. There was all the worry about being able to pass these exams, these which we had burdened ourselves with a new subject,
which is
our Spanish-American paper, which was a nightmare really. I found some of the reading at the beginning fascinating of the early days of the conquest, and Bernard Diaz's book and so forth was riveting. But when you get on to Pizarro and the Incas and all that, and all the names and the Spanish politics and Philip II and what have you.
Yes, I know. You don't like it. You don't want it all day. No, you don't want it all day. That's the point.
And the Italian paper was there was more to write about there. Bit rather more accessible. And I enjoyed playing around with the Italian, but as I was disappointed to find that Italian is not quite as like unto Spanish as I hoped it might be.
Oh, I see.
In fact, it's probably Spanish is easier to follow if you know. Perhaps that's not, but it's a different language. It's got obviously the same roots, but it's
yes, I can see.
It's a different kettle of fish, and
yes.
I struggled through Machiavelli's book Il Principe von Vac just in order to work my Italian up, but getting Orlando Furioso by Ariosto out of the university library to read it, really, about 700 pages.
Oh my God.
Or however long it was, very, very long story, and I only really managed the first stanza before giving it up, this medieval Italian. So we all passed. I think the Dons felt obliged to give us 2 2s in order to justify their own existence.
But did you enjoy it? Oh yes, of course.
So, but poor old John Best, who'd given up German in order to do Danish, and found most of his Danish studies involved with Hans Christian Andersen and a Danish poet with the name of Ørleslær. Det he also I gamle bøger. He used to read to us. That's terrible language, really. And John Best got a 3rd.
Well, it's not too bad.
We made up a limerick about him. There was a young fellow called Best, of intelligence, of learning, sadly bereft. But he cut such a caper on every paper, they gave him a 3rd for his zest.
Oh, well, he had a bit of fun.
I mean, he joined in good part from that, but it really wasn't very funny for him.
But you have to see that you see, it's a bit of fun, isn't it? Yes, that's the point.
And then we moved on. I missed the graduation ceremony, which again is a pity, and in retrospect I wish I hadn't, but I did, in order to go to Spitsbergen very early to get there while there was still ice.